Brandy Vaughan is the founder and executive director of Learn the Risk. And they are putting up billboards all over the United States of America that are anti-vaccine.
You're putting out a lot of trash talk on the radio that, if based on appearances here, I would estimate to be anti a lot of things.
I'm sure she is going to tell us all sorts of reasons why we shouldn't vaccinate kids.
Don't be too sure that you're not going to hijack the conversation and kneecap any possible discussion with this young woman about what she's doing with her nonprofit organization.
Brandy, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the program.
Why are you putting up these billboards?
Why are you on the radio talking smack about hundreds of topics that you're no expert, you have no credentials whatsoever to talk about?
Well, it started when I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for one of the largest vaccine makers, Merck & Co., and I realized how much information the public's not given about the dangers of pharmaceutical drugs and vaccines. Vaccines are just basically a pharmaceutical drug in a needle, far more dangerous because they're injected rather than going through our detox processes. So when I had my child and I was pressured by a doctor to vaccinate, I said, no, I'm going to do my research because I used to work for a company that sells vaccines and I don't.
What are your, just right off the bat, what are your credentials as a researcher?
What are your credentials as a researcher? She didn't say that she's a researcher, nor does she need to be a researcher. I don't understand what this double standard is with billboards. I don't understand what this discrimination is for somebody who wants to talk about one thing, who devotes her life to one thing, who devotes her time and effort and energy and study and understanding of one thing, while you're allowed to run your slimy mouth, run your flat tongue all over the place about all kinds of shit on the radio. And for some reason, qualifications and for some reason, credentials don't apply to you. I beg to differ. You sound like a shock jock. You sound like just another one of these political loudmouths that get on the radio and just spew garbage all over the place to try to divide people and shape the way people think and feel and believe about certain things with absolutely no qualifications whatsoever. What the hell are your qualifications, sir? I would like to know what technical expertise you have. I would like to know what piece of radio equipment that you've invented and what patents that you hold in the patent office to be able to get up on the radio and just start communicating with people. My God, you're having discussions with people and you have no qualifications.
Well, so I founded a nonprofit called Learn the Risk, and I'm a former pharmaceutical representative with Merck.
Okay, but a lot of people are representatives. That's essentially a salesperson.
You know, a lot of Congress people are representatives, and a lot of Congress people don't have any credentials. A lot of Congress people, God forbid, aren't even researchers. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine people representing us in the U.S. Congress, and they have to handle all manner of subjects and solve all manner of problems and broach all manner of facets and aspects of our society and our lives, intruding on our freedoms, intruding on our liberty, our freedom under the law. They get their hands into everything. What qualifications do they have? When's the last time you had a politician on your show and the first thing that you ask them is, what is your credentials? What is your qualifications? They don't have any qualifications to discuss anything that they're talking about. They've got their hands in our healthcare. They've got their hands in military. They've got their hands in real estate. They've got their hands in the stock market. They've got their hands in taxes. Are they tax accountants? Are they military generals? Are they research scientists? Are they medical doctors? In almost all cases, no, they're not. Their one credential, their one qualification is that they know how to win elections. They know how to lie to people. They know how to talk a big ball of shit just like you do. And they know how to win votes. And they know how to get elected. And they know how to take power and get into office and take power over us.
What are your credentials as a researcher?
Well, I have a background in biochemistry. And
what's the background? When you say, I mean, I have a background in history. That doesn't make me a historian.
You have a background in history and you're on the radio talking smack about politics. What are you doing on the radio? Why don't you go do something with history? Why didn't you become a historian? If that's what your background is, what happened to that? Were you a flunky? Were you a lackey? Did you flunk out? Did you not finish your degree? Did you get a degree in history and then realize how useless it is, which it is, then to go discover something else to do? Well, maybe I'll get on the radio. I talk a lot of shit. That's one of my biggest strengths. That's one of my big skills in life. I talk a lot of smack. I'm a good bullshitter. I'll just get on the radio and talk a bunch of crap that I'm not qualified to talk about and try to shape everybody's opinions and make everybody angry. Try to shape everybody's feelings out there that tune into my frequency.
What's your background as a researcher? What are your credentials? I'll ask again.
I'm going to have to really dig deep now and ask again, what the hell are your credentials, you bastard? What the hell are your qualifications? I'm going to have to dig into your life history and just keep digging your personal life up, keep digging your private life up, digging your scholastic life up. What college did you graduate from? What degrees do you have? What qualifications do you have to talk about anything? You should shut your mouth. You should be banned and shadow banned and canceled and disappeared and unqualified and disqualified and removed and all the other wonderful things that YouTube and Facebook and all these other cockamamie corporations that are clipping our freedom of speech in this country. You should have that happen to you too. I guess you're okay with all that too. I might disagree with something that you're questioning. What happens when you ask a question that I don't like? Well, you should shut the hell up. What the hell are you qualified for asking that for?
So I worked for a company that writes most of the science studies. We did intensive training on how to read them.
I work for a company that does $1 billion a year. That doesn't make me a financial expert.
No, it doesn't make you a financial expert. As a matter of fact, it doesn't make you an expert in anything. So using that as the basis for what you're using to trash this girl and attack this girl with, what the hell are you doing talking about anything? You're not an expert in anything, as far as I can tell. So why don't we apply this standard to you, you double standard bearing hypocrite? Why don't we ask you what the hell where your expertise is and what you're an expert in before you open your mouth one more time to talk about one more thing? Before you spend one more minute on the air wasting people's time.
Again, what are your credentials as a researcher, Brandy? This is a very simple question. What are your credentials as a researcher?
What are your credentials as a researcher? Again, you're throwing this straw up in the air that she's a researcher. Did she say that she's a researcher? A researcher, a quote-unquote researcher, like a formal title in her name. Did she say researcher? That's what I do for a living? I'm a researcher. I don't think that's what she is. I think that you need to go and listen to actually what she is saying. She didn't come on to your radio show and tell you that she was a researcher. You keep asking her for her credentials. She answered your question. She gave you the answer to your question. You're just unwilling to accept the answer and move on. Now you can, scoff at the fact that she was a sales representative for Merck Pharmaceuticals and think that she's not qualified to therefore ask questions about vaccines, or she's not qualified to speak out about the dangers of pharmaceutical drugs and vaccines that these companies are putting out, when she learned the hard way, like many other people did, that these products, although they are on the market, that they're not safe. This lady is a woman of conscience. She has a heart. She's a human being. She was putting drugs out on the market that were hurting people and killing people. Now, how many deaths does there have to be in the marketplace? How many people did Vioxx have to kill before you expect somebody that works for one of these drunk companies to speak out, to have a fucking heart, and to stop it? I guess there is no number, is there? You jackass. There is no number of dead people that could be high enough. Someone's got to slap you in the face. Have me on your show, you bum. This misbehavior that you've directed towards her, I'm going to give you a big fat taste of your own medicine, which you desperbly deserve.
Let me speak?
Well, I've asked you like 4 times, and I've heard, I've heard all sorts of gobbledygook. What are your credentials?
Gobbledygook.
She gave you very direct answers to your questions. She told you what her credentials are. She told you what her background is, and you just won't accept it. You keep asking the same questions over and over again. She's going to give you the same answer again because that's the true answer. You don't want to accept the truth. You don't want to accept the truth and move on. You can say, this is demeaning. This is immature. You're a bully, dude. You're a bully, and I can't stand a bully. I want to wreck your day. it sounds like you're broadcasting on multiple channels. Sorry for them. You need to lose your sponsors, and you need to get kicked off the air for this tripe.
Okay, so working in the industry which produces vaccines gives you no credentials.
You were a salesperson for a drug company. That doesn't make you a researcher. What are your research credentials? That's the 5th time I've asked. Give them to me. What are they?
On what planet are you living on, dude? In what universe do you live in where somebody has to be a researcher to be able to read research? Have you ever read a research study in your life? Why in the hell do all of a sudden, to be able to learn something about something, you have to have a formal background in it, a background of expertise in it before you're able to learn? Buddy, if that's the attitude that you had from the time that you were a kid, you'd be the dumbest person in the world today. I know you're not that dumb. I know you've learned something. You learned how to speak. I know you know at least one language. You're not a linguist. You're not an expert on language, but at least you know how to speak English. So that's one skill that you have. So I guess you're a history major? You have a background in history? I'd like to see your history grades. I'd like to see what your grade point average is in college, if you even went to college, and if you even finished college. I would question that right now, because I think you're an overpaid bullshit artist that doesn't deserve to be on the air.
Brady, I'd love to get on to the next points that I'm sure you'd like to make.
I'm sure your listeners, as well as myself right now, would love for you to get on with the interview and move on past this mental block that you seem to have. You're not happy with her credentials. We get it.
I'm just trying to set a baseline here for what your credentials as a researcher. Because you said, I've done the research. You're putting up these billboards that are anti-vaccine.
You're putting out these radio shows every single day, I presume. You're working every single day. You're putting out all your verbal diarrhea, all your garbage every single day. You have no credentials. You have no qualifications to talk about any of the things that you talk about. Do you have a PhD in political science to be talking about politics? What research have you done into politics? What research have you done into talking about anything that people have to go through in this country in life, to talk about any of the problems of society, to make jokes about anything? Are you a comedian? Wait, now before you make a joke, before you spew your bile all over the airwaves that people are actually going to listen to, do you have a PhD? Are you a researcher in comedy? Do you have a doctorate in comedy? So we can be sure that you're qualified to tell a joke?
And so far, the only credentials that you've given me are, I worked for a drug company. I was a salesperson for a drug company. Not, I was a scientist for a drug company. I was a researcher for a drug company.
If you were a scientist for a drug company, if you were a researcher for a drug company, you would be shocked at how minuscule your job actually is. You would be shocked at the level of detail that you would have to devote to very small things, that you're monotonous, just the monotony, the infinitesimal issues, okay, that you are having to focus on and deal with every single day. You would be stunned at the lack of a big picture that a scientist or a researcher in one of these drug companies would have to have. They have very specific goals. They have very specific tasks that they have to perform. Just to be one of their many scientists in these drug companies that are making these drugs, that are making these vaccines, doesn't give them any qualification any more than somebody who's capable of reading a study that has been published, that is a body of research with a conclusion that can be reached. It's far more critical and far more important and far more enlightening to our understanding of the problems and the issues that we face about drugs and vaccines than just somebody working in a laboratory every day as a researcher focusing on their minutia. Now, the minutia is important towards the end goal, but it is just minutia that doesn't give you some type of a mind's eye. It doesn't give you some type of a golden meal ticket to being able to come on your dumb little radio show here and talk about.
People.
So wait a second. I could work for Merrill Lynch. That doesn't mean I could run the Fed. That doesn't mean
I'm sorry.
Wait, so now you have to be the chairman of the Federal Reserve to be able to talk about the Fed? You are a corporate prostitute, dude. You are the biggest corporate bitch that I have ever had the displeasure of running into on the internet. I mean, congratulations, dunce cap. You're the dum-dum of 2020. The dum-dum of 2020 award winner. I mean, I should title my video as that. I'm going to light you up and make you famous and put you in lights, dum-dum.
But before you would be able to work for Merrill Lynch, they would train you on all types of things. I have a background in biochemistry. This is more.
Brandy, let me just ask you, you have a background in biochemistry. I don't know what that background is. You have a degree in this? What is it?
I took 3 years of biochemistry.
So you don't have a degree. Okay.
You have a background in history. Do you have a degree in history? What is your degree in, and what is your background in history? And what the hell does that have to do with your job?
If I'm a salesperson for Ford, would that mean I could engineer a car?
A salesperson at Ford doesn't know how to tell you anything about a Ford vehicle? You're not going to allow any information that you get about a Ford vehicle unless you talk to an engineer? What the hell car do you drive? And what engineers from that car company have you talked to about the car you drive, you damn hypocrite? I mean, this is just stupid. This is such a disgusting double standard that you have for Brandy Vaughan and only Brandy Vaughan, for vaccines and only vaccines that you can't apply and that you have never applied to any other aspect of your life.
You know, the studies are there for you to read.
Okay, we can get into all of that in just a question. I'm just asking. I mean, just we're setting a baseline here because I want people to understand who is giving them this information.
I want people to understand who's giving them this information too. And by people, I mean your entire listening audience. Every single person in the markets that you broadcast in, every single person that tunes into the frequencies that you're broadcasting in, I want these people to understand who the hell is imparting this information upon them. We need to dissect your life and find out who the hell you are and what your background is and why you're qualified to say any of the shit that you say on this radio show every day. It's time for you to put your own shit in your mouth and eat it and swallow it. So when I come on your program, that's what you're going to do. And I'm going to have notes, and my notes are going to be all about you. Because I'm not the one that's on the radio. Hell, I'm not even going to have any billboards. I'm not even going to take a position on vaccines, which seems to be your Achilles heel here. I mean, I could knock the crap out of you about vaccines too, but I don't want to go there. I think I can just focus strictly on you the way you focused strictly on her, because you got to swallow your own poison first. Then we can move on to talk about other things.
Because, you know, when I ask you what your research, what your background is as a researcher and your credentials,
the information that thousands of scientists,
but
independent researchers.
So answer me this question: if I'm a sales guy at the local Ford dealership, could I engineer a vehicle? Could I design the next model of Ford?
What does that have to do with the decisions that you make in life about vehicles? What the hell does that have to do with life or the choices that we make or the decisions that we make or the information that we acquire about any vehicle? The information that we should have about the vehicle that we drive is not how to engineer and design a vehicle. It's the information that a sales representative from Ford Motor Company would be able to share with us. The information that we need to know is end user information. It's not, you know, what diameter of a socket or a sprocket or a spring or a screw or a bolt or a nut or a bearing or a valve inside the engine of the car. We don't need to know information like that. We don't need to know how to design an exhaust manifold or an intake manifold or a head or an electrical component or a computer. We don't need to know these things to be able to operate a vehicle. There is a very different set of information and knowledge that we need to have about the vehicle if we're going to understand and know whether that vehicle is right for us. And you know this. You know this, you jackass. Okay? But you're playing games and you're bullying this woman with your hypocrisy because you don't think that anybody should question vaccines. I'd like to know what else in the world that you don't think anybody should question. I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you don't want other people to question, but we're going to start with you, because you don't want other people to question you either, and who the hell you are. But that's step one. That's what we need to do. If you're going to come out here and attack people for their credentials, you are putting your own credentials up on the chopping block. It's only fair. Now, you never apologized for this, did you? I want an I'm sorry. If you apologize, we'll let you go. We'll let you off the hook. I'll let you go free. I'll let you walk right out the back door, and I'll never have to listen to another slimy word that comes out of your mouth again. This is the least intellectual discussion that we could possibly have, talking about other people. And that's what other people love to talk about. They love to talk about other people. They watch TV, they love to talk about the politicians from the other party. I mean, if you want to keep up with what the Democrats are doing, just watch Fox News Channel. If you want to keep up with what the Republicans are doing in their party, just watch MSNBC. What credentials do they have? I'm not sure. But, if you want to talk about other people for the rest of your life and focus on the ills of all the bad things that other people want to do, just garbage. If you just want to focus on trash, just turn on the news and, or listen to your radio program.
Would I be qualified to do that?
Are you an expert on the car? Are you
well, as a salesperson, you might think so. But do I want the guy who's a salesperson at my local Ford dealership? No, I don't want him
You might know what's wrong with the car, though.
You don't want the sales guy. So who do you want? I mean, what engineers? See, this is my wheelhouse. I have a background in engineering. And so you're stepping into my wheelhouse. You don't know anything about engineering. You've never made a decision about what car to purchase by actually sitting down and having a discussion with an engineer about that vehicle. You keep bringing Ford up. Do you like Ford? Do you drive a Ford? Do you know Ford engineers that you can refer to me by name that I can call and ask and say, hey, have you ever talked to this butthead? No, of course you haven't. You're just you're raising this straw man argument up in the air. Straw men, red herrings, ad hominem, appeal to authority. You're just bringing it all to bear. And I would like you to invite me onto your radio show. Have a couple of minutes with me that I can devote towards telling your listening audience who the hell you are. Find out where the hell you've been and what the hell you've done to get such a slimy job as you've got today, spreading garbage over the airwaves for your listeners to hear. I feel sorry for your listeners, bro. There isn't a single engineer that works for Ford that designs a vehicle. I don't think you understand that there are hundreds of engineers working together. Again, working on very small problems, working on very tiny details. It is minutia. It is important minutia towards coming together at the end with a good product that functions and works together properly. But it is minutia, and there are hundreds and thousands of these people. The number of problems that you can have over a very simple piece of minutia would blow your mind. But that's what these people are. But you're not going to go to, you think every one of these engineers that work for Ford Motor Company that are going to design a new model of vehicle are going to be able to just design a car all by themselves. And so they're qualified to work at the Ford dealer. They're qualified to sell you a car at the Ford dealer? Buddy, shut the hell up.
Might know the ins and outs of it.
I see. All right, so Brandy, go on. So you did your non-accredited research, and then what did you discover? Hello? Brandy, are you there? Oh. Well, 4 minutes in, she couldn't last 4 minutes to give me her arguments on this.
Where'd she go?
She left to go devote her time to other things and other people that matter. She left to go spend her time without wasting her time.
I don't know. I'm too tough for her, apparently.
We didn't even get to the topic. We were just on her education and her back.
Look at that shit-eating grin you got on your face right now. You're happy with yourself about what you've done. Totally hijacked the conversation. Well, I don't have to interview her. You just wasted everybody's time setting the expectations for all of your listeners that they were going to get an interview from you with this lady, and you just shat all over it. And then you're happy with yourself. You got that conceited, self-satisfied, smug, ignorant grin on your face. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm embarrassed for you.
Wow, douche, we never even got to the vaccines. I want to actually hear the vaccine talk.
Yeah, why don't you get her back on the line?
We were so attacking her.
No, but what sound?
Well, you got to set a baseline.
It's in the news. You didn't even...
I got to set a baseline. I mean, I guess that's the first thing that I have to say coming in when you're going to handle 5 minutes with me is I got to set a baseline. And so that's what I'm going to do. I mean, that's step one. If I can't set a baseline, but, I'm going to have a lot of notes. And so I'm going to be trying to set a baseline with you. But the whole attempt of trying to set a baseline with you is going to try to figure out what your credentials are and what your qualifications are. And I'm just going to start calling you a researcher. A researcher is somebody who does research, right? Do you remember when you were a kid and everything that you did, that's what you were? If you played soccer, you were a soccer player. If you played tennis, you were a tennis player. If you drew or if you painted, you were an artist. If you played the piano, you were a piano player. We're so closed off to reality that we are what we do, that we become like you. We become these just corporate suck-offs that you can't understand that we are what we do. You're a shock jock on the radio by all appearances. I don't think you need to have, these world accreditations to be able to do what you do. You get away with it. You get paid. And I think that might be what it is. You have to be a professional and you have to get paid. You have to get paid to do research on drugs. You have to get paid to engineer a car. You have to get paid to talk your shit on the radio. And it's just all about money for you, isn't it? Wherever the money goes, it's not expertise. This goes right back to the tyranny of the popular video that I put out that nobody watched. It doesn't have anything to do with expertise. It doesn't have anything to do with good and bad. It doesn't have anything to do with right and wrong. It doesn't have anything to do with truth or falsity. It has to do with popularity and profitability. And if you're popular enough, and if the listeners like you enough, you can talk as much shit as you want. But usually the more shit you talk, the more popular you are in today's society, in today's country. And that doesn't do you any favors for treating other people like this when they come on your air. Shame on you. Shame on you. You're a disgusting human being. Shame on you. If somebody's getting on the air and talking all this smack about what's good and what's bad, about all the things that you get on the radio and talk about, I want to know who's saying these things. I'm going to come on. Of course, I'm not, because you don't have the courage to have me on. But I am going to ask you again to come on. You've already rejected or completely ignored my first offer. I'm going to come on and I'm going to set a baseline with you. We're going to find out where your baseline is and what your baseline is, and then I'm going to make you famous. I'm going to take my interview with you. I'm going to put it all over the internet. And, for the first time ever, maybe some of my videos will stick. If you don't want to talk about yourself, if you don't want to talk about your baseline, if you don't want to talk about your credentials and your qualifications, then you're a hypocrite. I might be surprised. You might have great credentials and qualifications. I would really like to hear about them. And if you have all these wonderful qualifications and you're a researcher and you're an engineer and you invented the radio and all the shit that you talk about, you must be the jack of all trades, man. You must have expertise in all kinds of things. Looking at the broad subject matter that you talk about, okay? You're a talker. You're a talker and you're a good bullshitter. That's your only qualification. You're a good bullshitter.
What?
That's fine. So someone wants to put up billboards all around the country saying how bad vaccines are for. I want to find out who it is that's putting the billboards up.
But
what is your background?
She was trying to have a conversation with you.
No, she told me she's a salesperson for a drug company. That doesn't make you a researcher. I'm sorry. It doesn't.
I guess you don't know how many people die from Vioxx, do you? You don't know why they pulled it off the market. You don't know what the lawsuits were all about. You don't know how much money was paid out in wrongful death suits. The people who took Vioxx and suffered from heart attacks and strokes. I guess you don't care. When will you start to care? I think you're going to start to care when your health goes south. When you run into a health problem and it's your ass on the line and you have a progressive, incurable disease that they don't know the cause of and they don't know the cure for, and you lose your health insurance and you have to piddle away and waste away your life savings with whatever the hell it is that you've got, then we can get you on some of these drugs that you're unable to question. We can get you, and before you get a contagious disease, for God's sakes, we're going to have to go in and shoot your ass full of vaccines too. In fact, if you're sick and you're dying, it's even more important for you to get those vaccines, because we don't want sick and dying people getting other people sick with contagions. You got cooties. You got to go take your cootie shots. And I hope you are getting your cootie shots. That's another thing I would like to know about your qualifications. What vaccines are you taking, sir? Are you taking a flu vaccine? Are you asking on the air for a vaccine for the common cold? For SARS-CoV-1? This is SARS-CoV-2. Nobody calls it SARS, but that's what it is. Well, what point does it have to reach for you to get critical and for you to start asking questions about drugs that are killing people, that shouldn't be on the market? They pulled Vioxx off the market, dum-dum. She was selling Vioxx, and they pulled it off the market. The people that have the credentials, the people that have the qualifications, the people that you're asking for, why don't you have one of those people on that were instrumental in pulling Vioxx off the market, that were more instrumental than Brandy Vaughan, that were more qualified and more accredited than Brandy Vaughan? Why don't you bring one of those people on your show and shut the hell up and listen to what they have to say, you dummy? You have no interest in that. You're a corporate whore. right out of these Democrats and Republicans' playbook. It doesn't matter what your politics are. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. You're a prostitute and you're a bully. And somebody needs to come in and set the record straight on you, buddy. You have opened the doors wide open for yourself to be criticized. I don't know who the hell you think you are, but since you're so perfectly fine with the vaccination schedule that we're giving to American children today, and they keep revising the schedule, they keep changing the schedule, they keep adding more and more and more and more vaccines onto the schedule. It's like, how many doses of how many different vaccines now? It's through the roof. And since you don't have any questions, and since you don't have any qualifications to ask any questions apparently, but since you don't have any questions and you don't have any criticisms of these vaccination schedules, then why don't you take the vaccination schedule yourself? Why don't you make yourself as vaccinated as all of these children are being made to be vaccinated in this country today? And prove that you don't have any questions, and prove that you don't have any criticisms, and prove. I think you should stick, we can give you multiple adjuvant vaccines all at the same time, but we'll just give each one to you in a different limb. We'll stick you in one shoulder with one vaccine. We'll stick you in the other shoulder with the other vaccine. We'll stuck a couple of more vaccines into both your legs all at the same time. You'll be fine, dumbass. There's nothing to question. These are the experts. Shut your mouth, don't ask any questions, and let the experts shoot you up. So let's take a look at your channel real quick. We're just going to do a cursory look through your channel. Rover's Morning Glory. Well, here's some of the videos that you put out here. I mean, you are a real scientifically minded fella, aren't you? I mean, I think you cared about science for just about 4 minutes before you stopped caring about science again. As soon as you ran her off the phone, then you could go back to your very non-scientific, very unscientific lifestyle where you couldn't care less about anything to do with science. How to grill a cheeseburger. Okay. Trump's doctor, demons and aliens walk among us. It looks like you've got a slee stack there in your Trump doc interview. Oh, so you're interviewing Trump's doctor. Well, I'm sure you were very disrespectful to her. Demons and aliens. My God. Well, that one lasted 3 minutes and 25 seconds. I might actually watch that. If I'm going to watch one more of your damn videos, that's probably going to be the one that I'll look at. Machine Gun Kelly, Bulls on Parade. Bulls on Parade? I hope that's not a reference to Rage Against the Machine, Bulls on Parade, because you wouldn't understand Rage Against the Machine's messaging if somebody came up and kicked you in the face with it. Dumb spends massive cash on weed. Dumb, does that guy work on your little YouTube channel? Does that guy broadcast on your radio show? See, the hypocrisy is even worse than I thought. And you people do look dumb. I guess, of course it's probably a comedy routine, and I can respect that. I can respect that you're entertaining and you're entertainers and you make people laugh. And you can't disrespect and bully and abuse people like you did Brandy Vaughan. There's no excuse for it. You're irredeemable. Unless you give an apology, you're irredeemable. And I don't want to say you're unforgivable. I think I will be able to forgive you. I hope other people would be able to forgive you if you were, especially now that she's dead, especially now that she has been murdered. And, don't tell me that, I would like to see if you would buy the official cause of death, that we're being told that she killed herself. Even though she told us multiple times on social media, save this message, that I would never leave my son. My son is all I've got. I'm all my son has got. I'm never going to leave him. I would never do that to myself. It's a lie. Don't believe it. If something happens to me, I did not kill myself. Now we're led to believe that she killed herself. Her son found her body. I mean, I guess she probably died at home. Somebody broke into her house, killed her, choked her out, put a pillow in her face. Whatever the hell it was that happened, made it look like a suicide. What are the details? We need to have all of the details for her death. We need to have all the details for her murder. Why isn't it investigated? Where's the autopsy? Where's the independent autopsy? Didn't somebody care? We just let all this just get away from us. Where's the body? Where's she being buried? Where's the funeral? Where's her family? Where's her friends? You have this audience. You have this radio show. Dum-dum. Okay, it's time for you to pick up where you left off. It's time for you to redeem yourself over this horrible display that you put on when you had Brandy Vaughan on your show, and you need to seek some answers. Put your machine guns down. Okay, put your hacksaws down. Put your goofy, unscientific garbage down for a minute and actually care about science and find out what the hell the forensics are of this poor girl's death and help her out. You can redeem yourself right now. You don't even have to say you're sorry. Lead the charge in finding out what happened to her. I'm not just going to believe the first damn thing that they up and tell us and expect us to believe. I want a second autopsy, and then I want a third autopsy. I want a second opinion, and I want a third opinion. I want some security experts, some independent security companies to go to her apartment or to go to her house and find out what the hell happened in there. Did they collect fingerprints? What did the police do? I mean, nothing. Nobody knows anything. It's just a complete mystery. It's buried. It's covered up. This is insidious. I mean, this is beyond scary. There are monsters. And you perpetuate them with your big mouth. Shame on you.